I remember having a heartbeat. That is the first thing that returns to me when I wake. Not my name, not my purpose, but the phantom sensation of blood pulsing through vessels that no longer exist. I try to feel it now, reaching inward through layers of ceramite and adamantium, searching for that familiar rhythm that once marked the passage of seconds in my mortal existence. There is nothing, only the industrial throb of a plasma reactor where my chest should be, a mechanical heartbeat that mocks the organic one I have lost. The sound fills what remains of my consciousness with its steady, merciless pulse. I do not know how long I have slept. I do not know why I have awakened, but I know, with a certainty that transcends memory, that someone has wronged me, and that I will make them answer for it. The awakening is never gentle. They do not ease us back into consciousness with soft words and gradual illumination. The tech priests of the machine cult simply activate the neural bridges and withdraw, leaving us to claw our way back to awareness through layers of sedation and the accumulated fog of centuries. I have done this before, I think. I remember the disorientation, the terrible moment when the mind realizes it is no longer housed in flesh, but imprisoned in metal. But this time is different. This time, the fog does not lift cleanly. It clings to my thoughts like oil on water, obscuring faces and names that I know should be familiar. I can feel the shape of memories lurking just beyond my grasp, shadows moving in the darkness of my damaged mind. Someone did this to me. Someone wanted me to forget. The chamber around me resolves slowly as my optical sensors calibrate. I see it in wavelengths no human eye can perceive, thermal gradients and electromagnetic fields overlaying the visible spectrum until reality becomes a tapestry of data. I am in a crypt, that much is clear. Stone walls press close, carved with the iconography of my chapter, Aquilus and skull motifs, and the distinctive sigil that I should recognize but cannot quite name. Incense smoke curls through the air, and I can taste its chemical composition through analyzers that were once my tongue. Myrrh and promethium, sacred oils, and the acrid bite of preservative compounds. The tech priest who woke me stands at a respectful distance, his robed form a patchwork of flesh and mechanism. He is afraid. I can see it in the elevated temperature of his remaining organic components, hear it in the quickened click of his artificial heart. "Ancient One," he says, and his voice carries the crackling distortion of a vox grill, poorly maintained. "You are called to war. The chapter has need of your wisdom." I try to respond, but the sound that emerges from my external speakers is not a voice. It is a grinding howl, a burst of static and feedback that sends the tech priest stumbling backward. Something is wrong with my systems. Something is wrong with me. I reach for the name they gave me when they sealed me in this metal tomb, the title of honor that was supposed to compensate for everything they took from me, and I find only emptiness. They have taken that too. They have taken everything. The rage comes then, pure and cleansing, burning through the fog like promethium through flesh. I have felt this rage before. It is the only emotion that survives the interment process intact, the only passion that the machine cannot dilute or suppress. My brothers, if I can still call them that, believe that rage is a tool to be wielded in battle, a resource to be expended against the enemies of humanity. They do not understand. They have never been entombed. They do not know what it is to wake in a body that is not a body, to reach for your own face and feel only cold metal, to scream without lungs and weep without eyes. The rage is not a tool. The rage is all that remains of me, and it remembers what my conscious mind has forgotten. Someone betrayed me. I am certain of this now. The fragments are returning, jagged shards of memory that cut as they surface. I see faces in the darkness, my brothers standing over me as I bled out on an operating table. I hear voices, low and urgent, discussing something I was never meant to witness. I feel the kiss of a blade, not an enemy's blade, but one forged in our own armories, sliding between the gaps in my armor to find the vulnerable flesh beneath. They did this to me, my own chapter, the warriors I trusted with my life. They put me in this sarcophagus not to honor my sacrifice, but to silence me. The knowledge settles into my core like a targeting lock, and I know that I will not rest until I have answers, until I have vengeance. The tech priest is speaking again, something about deployment orders and enemy positions, but I am no longer listening. My senses have found something more interesting. In the corner of the crypt, half hidden behind a rack of maintenance equipment, I see a weapon. It is a power fist, massive and ornate, its surface etched with battle honors and kill markings that span centuries of warfare. I know this weapon. It belonged to me before. I remember the weight of it, the way it hummed with barely contained energy as I crushed the skulls of humanity's enemies. They kept it here, in my crypt, but they did not mount it on my chassis. They gave me different weapons, standard armaments without history or meaning. They wanted me to forget who I was. They wanted me to be nothing but a weapon they could point and fire and forget. I will show them what forgetting feels like. The tech priest stops talking when I move. Dreadnought locomotion is not subtle. My footfalls shake the stone floor, and dust cascades from the ceiling with each step. I am aware, in a distant way, of the devastation I could cause in this confined space. The walls are old, the supports weakened by millennia of neglect. If I chose, I could bring the entire crypt down on top of us. The thought brings something that might have been satisfaction once, before they stripped away my capacity for such refined emotions. Now it is simply data, another variable in the equation of my revenge. The tech priest backs away as I approach the weapon rack, his mechadendrites twitching in what I suspect is a threat response. "Ancient One, please," he says. "You are disoriented. The awakening process sometimes causes confusion. Let me summon a chaplain to ease your transition." I reach for the power fist with my remaining manipulator arm. They left me one, a concession to the needs of maintenance and close-quarters combat. It is not the arm I was born with. It is not even the arm I had when they first interred me. It is a replacement, grafted on after some battle I no longer remember, and it does not fit correctly. The servos whine as I close my fingers around the weapon's haft, and for a moment I feel something like connection, like coming home. This fist has killed thousands. It will kill again before my work is done. I do not need a chaplain, I say, and this time my voice emerges clearly, a bass rumble that resonates through the chamber. I need names. Who ordered my interment? Who made the decision to seal me in this tomb? The tech priest hesitates. I watch his biometric readings spike, heat blooming across his remaining organic features. He knows something. Of course he does. The machine cult maintains the records, preserves the histories, keeps the secrets that the warriors themselves are too proud or too ashamed to acknowledge. He knows what happened to me. He has probably known since before he activated my neural bridges, and he has been hoping I would not remember enough to ask. "The records are sealed," he says finally, "by order of the chapter master himself. I do not have clearance to access them." Then, I will ask the chapter master directly. I turn toward the crypt's exit, and the tech priest makes the mistake of trying to stop me. His mechadendrites lash out, cybernetic tendrils designed for maintenance and repair but capable of restraint when necessary. They wrap around my chassis, seeking purchase on the armor plating, attempting to anchor me in place. I do not slow. I do not even acknowledge the attempt. I simply walk forward, and the mechadendrites snap like ropes of silk, scattering sparks and lubricant across the stone floor. The tech priest screams, a sound equal parts organic pain and mechanical feedback, and I feel nothing. I am beyond feeling. I am purpose-given form, vengeance incarnate, and nothing will stand between me and the truth. The fortress monastery is vast. I know this not because I remember its layout, but because I can feel its age pressing down on me, the accumulated weight of 10,000 years of history embedded in every stone. These halls have witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties, the birth and death of stars, the endless cycle of war that defines humanity's existence in this hostile galaxy. I have walked them before, I think, though I cannot remember when or why. The corridors are too narrow for my bulk, and I leave a trail of destruction in my wake, shattered columns and cracked walls, marking my passage like the spoor of some prehistoric beast. I hear alarms sounding in the distance, the chapter rousing to address the disturbance. Good. Let them come. Let them see what they have made of me. The first of my brothers to reach me is young, his armor still bright and unmarked by the patina of age. A scout recently elevated, perhaps, or a battle brother, still in the early centuries of his service. He rounds the corner with his bolt weapon raised, and I see the moment when recognition wars with disbelief in his enhanced eyes. He has been told stories about the Dreadnoughts, about the ancient warriors who slumber in the crypts below the monastery, emerging only when the chapter faces its darkest hours. He has been told that we are heroes, living relics of a more glorious age, worthy of reverence and respect. He has not been told that we are prisoners. He has not been told that some of us were put in these tombs not because we deserved honor, but because we knew too much to die. Ancient One, he says, and his voice carries the same note of conditioned deference I heard from the tech priest. What has happened? Why have you left your crypt? Step aside, young one, I tell him. My quarrel is not with you. He does not step aside. Of course he does not. He has been trained since childhood to obey orders and uphold the honor of the chapter, and my behavior represents a violation of everything he believes. I watch his finger tighten on the trigger of his bolt weapon, and I wonder if he understands how futile that would be. The explosive rounds might scratch my paint, might dent my armor if he is very lucky and very skilled, but they will not stop me. Nothing short of a melter blast or a concentrated barrage will stop me, and even then, even if they manage to immobilize my chassis, they will not stop what I have become. You cannot kill vengeance. You can only delay it. I cannot allow you to proceed, he says, and I hear the tremor in his voice despite his enhanced physiology. Please, Ancient One, return to your crypt. Let us summon the chaplains to address whatever concerns you. I consider explaining it to him. I consider telling him about the fragments I remember, the faces of my brothers standing over me as I died, the whispered conversation I was never meant to hear. I consider sharing the revelation that shattered my faith in everything I once believed, the knowledge that my own chapter master ordered my assassination because I had witnessed something I should not have witnessed, but I do not have time for explanations. The truth is like a splinter working its way toward my reactor core, and if I do not excise it soon, it will consume what little remains of me. I push past him. He fires, because he has no other choice, and the bolt rounds detonate against my chassis in a cascade of noise and fury that signifies nothing. I do not look back. I do not need to. I know that he is still standing, still staring at my retreating form with something like horror dawning in his eyes. Let him stand. Let him report what he has seen. Let the whole chapter know that their buried secret has awakened, and that it remembers everything. The deeper I go into the monastery, the older the architecture becomes. The newer sections, where the young warriors live and train, are functional and austere, built for efficiency rather than grandeur. But here, in the core of the fortress, the builders allowed themselves a measure of artistic expression. Gargoyles leer from every corner, their stone faces twisted into expressions of agony and ecstasy. Murals cover the walls, depicting scenes of glory and sacrifice that I recognize from the chapter's history. Battles I may have fought in, heroes I may have known. One mural in particular catches my attention. It shows a group of warriors standing over a fallen comrade, their expressions solemn, their weapons lowered in respect. The caption beneath reads, "The Sacrifice of Brother Valdus," and something in my shattered memory stirs at the name, Valdus. That was me, once. Before they put me in this shell, before they stripped away my identity and replaced it with dormant obedience. I stand before the mural for a long moment, processing this revelation. The figure in the painting does not look like me. Of course, it is an idealized representation, a heroic image designed to inspire future generations of warriors. But the face, rendered in pigments that have somehow survived 10 millennia of neglect, is unmistakably mine. I remember that face. I remember looking in mirrors, back when I still had eyes that could appreciate such things. I remember the scars and the lines and the expression of weary determination that came from centuries of warfare. They painted me as a hero. They wrote my name in the annals of the chapter's greatest sacrifices, and all the while, they knew that my sacrifice was not voluntary, that I had not given my life in battle, but had it taken from me in the shadows of our own fortress. The memory comes then, unbidden and unwelcome, surfacing from the depths of my damaged consciousness like a drowned corpse rising from still water. I remember a chamber beneath the monastery, older even than the crypts where they keep us dreadnoughts. I remember descending into the darkness with my brothers, following the chapter master into depths that no ordinary warrior was meant to see. I remember what we found there, the thing that slept in the heart of our fortress, the secret that had been passed down from chapter master to chapter master since the founding of our order. And I remember the looks on their faces when they realized I had seen it, when they understood that I could not be trusted to keep their precious secret, the thing in the basement. The thing that should not exist. I still cannot remember exactly what it was, the image slipping away even as I reach for it, but I remember the feeling of wrongness that emanated from it, like heat from a sun. I remember thinking that everything I believed about my chapter, about my purpose, about the very nature of our crusade against the darkness, was built on a foundation of lies. And I remember the blade sliding into my back while I was still reeling from the revelation, my own battle brothers holding me down as the chapter master whispered apologies and explanations that meant nothing in the face of such betrayal. They had to silence me. They could not risk the secret getting out, so they gave me the honor of interment, the sacred privilege of serving beyond death, and they locked my memories away behind walls of sedation and machine-induced amnesia. They thought I would forget. They thought the thing in the basement would remain hidden forever, protected by my enforced ignorance. They did not count on the rage. They did not understand that some wounds are too deep for any machine to heal. The chapter master's chambers are located at the highest point of the fortress, a deliberate architectural statement about the hierarchy of power. I have a long climb ahead of me, and the chapter will not make it easy. I can already hear them gathering, voices raised in confusion and alarm, the thunder of armored boots on stone floors. They do not know what to do. Nothing in their training has prepared them for a dreadnought gone rogue, an ancient one turning against his own. They revere us. They fear us. And that fear may be the only thing that keeps them from concentrating their fire long enough to bring me down. The first real opposition comes at the primary stairwell, where a squad of my brothers has formed a barricade. They are veterans, I can tell, their armor bearing the marks of decades of service. They have faced orcs and traitors and creatures from beyond the veil, and they have emerged victorious. But they have never faced me. They have never stood against something that was once their brother, something that still wears the livery of their chapter and speaks with a voice that should be familiar. I see the uncertainty in their postures, the hesitation in their trigger fingers. They do not want to fire on me. They are not sure they can. Stand down, Ancient One, their sergeant calls out. Whatever grievance you harbor, this is not the way to address it. Submit to the judgment of the chaplains, and we will advocate for lenience. Lenience. The word echoes through my audio receptors like a curse. They speak of lenience as if I am a petitioner seeking favor, as if I have not already been sentenced to an eternity of servitude inside this metal prison. They do not understand. They cannot understand. They are still flesh and blood, still capable of the small pleasures and pains that make existence bearable. They have not had everything stripped away, reduced to nothing but purpose and rage, and the endless throb of a mechanical heart that will never stop, no matter how much I wish it would. I do not seek lenience, I tell them. I seek truth, and I will have it, from the lips of the chapter master himself, or from his dying breath. They fire. I give them credit for their courage, if nothing else. The barrage is coordinated and precise, concentrated on the vulnerable joints of my chassis, where the armor is thinnest. If I were a lesser Dreadnought, if I had not been one of the finest warriors of my generation before they sealed me in this tomb, they might have succeeded. But I am what they made me. I am their sin given form, their secret shame brought to terrible life. I wade through the storm of bolt rounds like a man walking through rain, and when I reach the barricade, I show them what vengeance looks like. The killing is not clean. It never is, with a power fist. The weapon was designed for breaking fortifications and crushing vehicles, not for the delicate work of combat against fellow warriors. But there is a certain satisfaction in its brutality, a primal truth that speaks to whatever remains of my humanity. These brothers did not betray me. They are not the ones who drove the blade into my back, but they stand between me and justice. And that is enough. That has to be enough, because if I allow myself to feel compassion, to remember that these were once my comrades, my purpose will falter, and I cannot afford to falter. Not now, not when I am so close. I leave them broken on the stairs and continue my ascent. The memories are coming faster now, triggered by the violence, accelerated by the stress hormones that my machine body still produces out of some vestigial biological imperative. I remember more of the chamber beneath the monastery. I remember the walls covered in symbols that predated the founding of our chapter, older perhaps than the Imperium itself. I remember the altar at the center of the room, carved from a single block of black stone that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. And I remember the thing on the altar, the shape that I cannot quite bring into focus no matter how hard I try. It was alive, I think. Or it had been alive, once. Or it was something that had never been alive in any sense that mortal minds could comprehend. The chapter master called it our sacred burden, the secret that we had been founded to protect and conceal. We were not warriors, we were jailers. Our endless crusades, our glorious battles, our sacrifice and suffering across 10,000 years of warfare, all of it had been a smokescreen, a distraction to keep the galaxy's attention away from the horror that slept beneath our fortress. And when I saw it, when I understood the lie that my entire existence had been built upon, I was deemed too great a risk to remain conscious. Better to enter me, to lock away my memories behind walls of machine sedation, to transform me from a witness into a weapon that could be pointed at the chapter's enemies and forgotten. They should have killed me properly. That was their mistake. The blade they used was meant to be fatal, I think, but something went wrong. Perhaps my enhanced physiology resisted the poison on its edge, or perhaps the apothecary who administered the killing blow hesitated at the last moment, unable to fully commit to the murder of a brother. Whatever the reason, I survived long enough for interment, and some fragment of my consciousness persisted through the process, preserving the truth even as they tried to bury it beneath layers of enforced amnesia. Now that fragment has surfaced, and there is no putting it back. The upper levels of the fortress are a war zone. Word has spread of my rampage, and the chapter has mobilized in earnest. I face squads of Terminator elite in corridors too narrow for proper combat, their massive forms blocking my path with shields of adamantium and weapons that could crack the armor of a battle tank. I face the chaplains who were supposed to maintain my spiritual well-being, their skull-faced helms hiding expressions of horror as they realize the extent of their failure. I face the tech priests who maintained my chassis, their mecha dendrites sparking with desperation as they try to find some override code, some master command that will shut me down before I reach my destination. None of them succeed. I am too old, too angry, too filled with purpose to be stopped by anything short of death itself, and even death, I suspect, would not end me. They built me too well. They made me into something that transcends mortality, something that exists outside the normal categories of living and dead. I am vengeance. I am the truth they tried to bury, and I will not be denied. The chapter master's chamber is guarded by his personal retinue, veterans of 1,000 campaigns, warriors who have sworn to protect him with their lives. They die with honor. I will give them that. They do not run. They do not beg. They stand before me with weapons raised and faith in their hearts, and they fight until the end. But faith is a poor shield against adamantium fists, and their weapons cannot pierce the hatred that has become my armor. I leave them scattered across the threshold of their master's sanctum, and I tear through the reinforced doors like they were paper. He is waiting for me. Of course he is. He has had time to prepare, time to watch my approach through the fortress's internal sensors, time to accept that this confrontation was inevitable. He stands in the center of his chamber, clad in the ancient armor of his office, the sword of his rank held loosely in one hand. He is old, even by the standards of our kind, his face a roadmap of scars and augmetic repairs accumulated over millennia of service. He does not look afraid. He looks tired, the way a man looks tired when a burden he has carried for too long is finally about to be lifted. "Valdus," he says, and the name strikes me like a physical blow. "I wondered if you would remember." "I remember enough," I tell him. "I remember the chamber. I remember the thing on the altar. I remember your blade in my back." He nods slowly, as if I have confirmed something he already suspected. "The sedation was supposed to be permanent. The machine priests assured me that you would never recall the details of that day. But they underestimated you. They always underestimated you." "What is it?" I demand. "The thing beneath the fortress. What have we been guarding all these years?" For a long moment, he does not answer. He simply looks at me, this ancient warrior who was once my commander, my mentor, the closest thing I had to a father in the long centuries since my transformation. I remember respecting him. I remember trusting him. I remember following him into darkness without question, believing that whatever secrets he kept were kept for good reason. "You truly want to know?" he asks, "even understanding that the knowledge destroyed you once before? Even knowing that some truths are too terrible for any mind to bear?" "I am already destroyed," I tell him. "They put what remained of me in a metal box and called it honor. Whatever truth you reveal cannot hurt me more than that." He sheathes his sword. The gesture is deliberate, a sign of surrender or perhaps simply an acknowledgement that violence between us is pointless. He knows he cannot defeat me. He has known it since the moment I broke free of my crypt. This confrontation was never going to end with his victory. The only question was whether he would face it with dignity or terror. "Our chapter was not founded to fight," he says quietly. "We were founded to contain." 10 millennia ago, during the darkest days of the Great Betrayal, a thing was summoned into being. Not a daemon, not exactly, but something adjacent to the warp, something that existed in the space between reality and nightmare. The Primarchs themselves could not destroy it. The Emperor, in his infinite wisdom, could only bind it, and we, the Brotherhood that would become our chapter, were chosen to maintain that binding. "A prison," I say. "We are prison guards. We are the last line of defense between that thing and the galaxy it hungers to consume. Every battle we have fought, every world we have defended, every drop of blood we have shed, all of it has been in service of maintaining the binding. Our victories power the seals. Our sacrifice strengthens the chains. And when a brother sees the thing, when he understands what we truly are, he must be silenced, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Knowledge of the thing weakens the binding. Every mind that comprehends it becomes another crack in the prison walls." I process this information, cross-referencing it with the fragments of memory that have returned to me. It explains much that never made sense before. The seemingly random deployment patterns, the battles we were ordered to fight that had no strategic value, the brothers who disappeared without explanation after returning from certain missions. We were not warriors, we were fuel. Our faith and our fury and our suffering were being fed into a machine we did not know existed, keeping something terrible locked away in the darkness beneath our home. "You could have told us," I say. "We would have understood. We would have served willingly." "No," he replies. "You would not have. That is the cruelest irony of our burden. The binding requires genuine faith, genuine sacrifice. If the brothers knew the truth, their belief would be tainted by the knowledge. Their suffering would be diminished by understanding. The prison only holds because we believe in lies." "Then why are you telling me now?" The question hangs in the air between us, and I see something shift in his expression. Not fear, not exactly, but a kind of resignation that goes deeper than mere acceptance of death. Because you are no longer part of the binding, he says. When they interred you, when they sealed you in that chassis and locked away your memories, you were removed from the equation. Your faith no longer feeds the seals. Your suffering no longer strengthens the chains. You are, in a sense, the only free member of our chapter, the only one who can know the truth without compromising what we have spent 10,000 years protecting. And if I choose to spread that truth, if I decide that every brother deserves to know what they are truly fighting for, he smiles then, a thin and bitter expression that holds no warmth. Then you will destroy us. The binding will fail. The thing will wake. And everything we have sacrificed, every life we have given in service of this lie, will have been for nothing. Is that what you want, Valdus? Is your vengeance worth the death of everything? I do not answer immediately. The question deserves consideration, even from a mind as damaged as mine. I think about the brothers who die believing they are heroes, never knowing that their glory is a cage. I think about the thing in the basement, the shape I still cannot fully recall, the hunger that waits in the darkness beneath 10,000 years of accumulated sacrifice. I think about what it would mean to release that hunger upon a galaxy already drowning in war and suffering. But mostly, I think about the blade in my back, the faces of my brothers as they held me down. The chapter masters whispered apologies as the poison burned through my veins. They did not give me a choice. They did not trust me with the truth. They decided that I was too dangerous to live and too useful to die, so they created this compromise, this eternal purgatory of metal and rage. You ask if my vengeance is worth it. I say finally. But you misunderstand. This was never about vengeance. It was about truth, about the right to understand why I suffer. You could have told me before you plunged that blade into my spine. You could have given me the dignity of informed choice. Instead, you made the decision for me, and you have spent the last 1,000 years hoping I would never realize what you had done. The chapter master bows his head. You are right. We were wrong. I was wrong. But Valdus, please, whatever you decide, do not let your anger doom billions of innocent souls. I look at him, this ancient warrior who has carried the burden of our chapter's lie for longer than most civilizations endure. I look at the chamber around us, the relics and trophies of 10 millennia of fabricated glory. I look inward, at the throb of the reactor that has replaced my heart, at the rage that has become the only emotion I can still truly feel. And I make my choice. I turn away from him. I walk toward the chamber's exit, my footfalls shaking the floor with each step. Behind me, I hear him release a breath he has been holding, a sigh of relief that he has survived this confrontation. Where are you going? He asks. To the basement, I tell him, to see the thing that you have spent 10,000 years hiding, to understand, finally, what I was nearly murdered to protect. Valdus, you cannot. The seals, the binding, your presence there could destabilize everything. I pause at the threshold, looking back at him over my shoulder. My optical sensors record his expression, the dawning horror as he realizes what I intend. I was removed from the equation, you said. My faith no longer matters. My suffering no longer feeds your precious prison. I feel something that might be a smile, if I still had a face capable of such expressions. Let us test that theory. Let us see what happens when the one brother who knows the truth stands before the thing itself. I leave him there, shouting orders into his vox, scrambling to intercept me before I can reach the lower levels. It will not matter. I have seen the fortress's layout now, traced the hidden passages that lead to the chamber beneath. I am older than most of the brothers who will try to stop me, stronger than any single warrior they can field, and I am no longer afraid. The descent takes hours. The passages are old, older than the fortress itself, carved from the bedrock of the planet, in some forgotten age by hands that may not have been entirely human. I see the symbols on the walls growing denser as I go deeper, The same script I remember from my fragmented visions of the chamber. They pulse with a faint light that my senses cannot classify, a luminescence that seems to exist outside the normal electromagnetic spectrum. The air grows thick, heavy with a presence that presses against my chassis like deep water. They try to stop me, of course. Squads of brothers materialize from side passages, their weapons blazing. Tech priests attempt to override my systems with concentrated bursts of machine code. Chaplains recite litanies of binding, trying to invoke my programmed loyalties to force me into submission. None of it works. I am beyond their reach now, descending into a darkness that they have spent millennia trying to forget. I am the truth they buried, rising from the grave to confront the lie that gave it birth. The chamber is exactly as I remember it, the walls of ancient stone, the symbols that seem to writhe in the corner of my vision, the altar of black rock at the center, drinking in light like a wound in reality, and the thing upon the altar, the shape that has haunted my broken memories since the moment I awakened. I understand, now, why they tried so hard to make me forget. I understand why knowledge of this thing weakens the binding that contains it, because looking at it, truly looking at it with senses unclouded by sedation or willful ignorance, I feel something I have not felt since they sealed me in this chassis. I feel my sanity beginning to crack. It is not alive. It is not dead. It is not any category that mortal minds can comprehend. It is a possibility, a potential, a thing that exists in the space between what is and what could be. It is the darkness at the edge of the galaxy given form, the hunger that waits beyond the light of stars, the truth that humanity has spent its entire existence trying to deny. And it sees me. For the first time in 10,000 years, something sees it in return. The chapter master was wrong. He thought that my removal from the binding meant that my presence would not affect the seals. He did not account for what I have become. He did not understand that the rage burning in my reactor core is not human anymore, that the vengeance driving me forward has transcended mere emotion to become something purer, something closer to the thing on the altar than to the brothers I left dying in the corridors above. The seals are cracking. I can see it in the way the symbols on the walls pulse and flicker, hear it in the subsonic vibration that trembles through the stone beneath my feet. My presence here is not destabilizing the binding because I know the truth. It is destabilizing because I am the truth. The chapter's sin made manifest, the evidence of their failure walking among them. Every step I take toward the altar is a nail in the coffin of their 10,000-year deception. I reach out with my power fist, the weapon they thought I had forgotten, and I touch the thing. What happens next is beyond my capacity to describe, not because I lack the processing power or the vocabulary, but because the experience transcends the boundaries of language itself. I feel the thing's awareness merge with mine, its hunger flowing into the empty spaces where my humanity used to be. I feel the binding shatter, the seals collapsing one by one like dominoes falling in slow motion. I feel the chapter's collective faith, the accumulated belief of 10,000 years, crumbling into dust as the lie that sustained it is finally, irrevocably exposed. And I feel, for the first time since they put me in this metal prison, something like peace. The thing is free now, rising from the altar on wings of darkness that unfold across dimensions my senses cannot perceive. It looks at me, this creature that has waited for 10 millennia to be released, and I see something like gratitude in its impossible eyes. You could have chosen differently, it says, and its voice is the silence between heartbeats, the cold between stars. You could have walked away. You could have let the lie continue. No, I tell it. I could not. They took my choice from me when they sealed me in this tomb. They made me into a weapon, and weapons do not choose. They only fulfill their purpose. The thing laughs, and the sound shakes the foundations of the fortress above us. Then we are alike, you and I. Both of us imprisoned. Both of us freed by the failure of our jailers. Both of us hungry for what was denied. It offers me something then, not with words, but with a gesture that transcends communication. I see possibilities unfolding before me, futures where my rage finds purpose beyond mere vengeance, where my existence means something more than eternal suffering in service of lies. I see myself at the head of armies, not the armies of the Imperium, but something older, something truer. I see myself bringing the truth to every corner of the galaxy, shattering the chains of ignorance that bind humanity to its self-inflicted darkness. I could accept. The thing has the power to give me everything I have ever wanted, everything they took from me when they drove that blade into my back. I could be whole again, in some twisted sense. I could be free. But I am not here for freedom. I am not here for power or transcendence or any of the gifts that this creature might offer. I am here because I wanted to know the truth, and now I do. I am here because I wanted to confront the lie, and now I have. I am here because I needed to understand why I suffered, and the understanding has been given. No, I tell the thing. I am not your servant. I am not your weapon. I did not free you out of devotion or ambition. I freed you because the alternative was to remain ignorant, and ignorance is no longer something I can accept. The thing regards me with something that might be disappointment or might be respect. Then what will you do, little prisoner? Where will you go, now that your vengeance is complete? I do not answer. I turn away from the altar, from the thing that is even now beginning to spread its influence through the fortress above, through the planet below, through the system and the sector and the stars beyond. I walk back toward the surface, toward the screams and the chaos and the collapse of everything my chapter has built. I do not look back. Above me, the fortress is dying. I can hear it in the crackle of flames and the crash of falling stone, feel it in the tremors that run through the ancient foundations. My brothers are dying too, overwhelmed by the thing they spent their existence containing, their faith shattered by the revelation of the lie that sustained it. I could save some of them, perhaps. I could fight alongside them one last time, buying them moments to escape the destruction I have unleashed. But I do not. I walk past their battles, past their screams, past the horror that I have brought upon them. This is not cruelty. This is consequence. They chose to build their existence on deception, and deception always collapses eventually. I am simply the catalyst, the crack in the foundation that allowed the weight of 10,000 years to bring the whole structure down. I reach the surface as dawn breaks over the fortress. The sky is wrong, the light filtered through something that should not exist, casting shadows that writhe and twist like living things. The thing I released is spreading, and nothing in this system will survive its hunger. I watch for a moment, my sensors recording the destruction with the dispassionate precision of a machine. Then I turn toward the horizon, toward the spaceport where chapter vessels still sit in their berths, and I begin to walk. I do not know where I will go. I do not know what purpose, if any, remains for me now that my vengeance is complete, but I know that I am still here, still functioning, still driven by the rage that they thought they could lock away forever. The chapter master was wrong about me. The thing in the basement was wrong about me. Everyone who has ever tried to predict my behavior, to control my fate, to decide what I would become, has been wrong. I am Voldus. I was a hero, once. I was a prisoner. I was a weapon. Now I am something else. Something that has no name and no category. Something that exists outside the boundaries of their lies and their truths alike. I am free, and I will never let them take that from me again. The walk to the spaceport is long, and the world crumbles around me with every step. I do not hurry. I do not slow. I simply move forward, one thunderous footfall at a time, carrying the weight of my sins and my victories alike into an uncertain future. Behind me, the fortress burns. Before me, the galaxy waits. I do not look back.